So Ashley, welcome. Welcome to the local pickup.
Thanks, Jason. It's
Yeah.
awesome to be here, man.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you. So what are you playing? I'm excited. This sounds great.
Well, playing for pedals, making the craziness. We're dealing with some Keeley Electronics stuff here. Their new Synth 1 came out last year. Bubbletron, which has been around for a little while, and the bassist limiting amplifier, which is part of a long Keeley compressor tradition, and that's my personal one off my board, so I really love it. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And then, so before we get to the long tradition, so what about the bass here?
This is something I got last year. I've always been a jazz bass player, and G&L is famous as the company.
So Leo Fender, yeah, created G&L, right? Yeah.
Yep. As soon as his non-compete ran out after selling Fender,
Yeah.
he created yet again one of the greatest instrument designs ever.
Right, yeah.
The G&L, and this is their SB-2, which is like their jazz bass. But you can see it looks like a mashup between Music Man and Fender.
Yeah, for sure.
It has the magnetic field pickups, they call them, distinctive from the pole pieces. It has the heavy Music Man style bridge, which is an improvement over standard Fender ashtray bridges, I would say.
And it looks cool because it's big and like monster-like.
Right.
Yeah.
Just wide range, much wider tonal variety because these pickups are so much beefier than the standard jazz bass ones.
Too, man.
Yeah, this one's turned out to age really well. Some of the bird's eye happening there on the.
Very cool.
Yeah, I really love it.
So, and that's running through what?
This is a Genzler Magellan 800. It's one of the most popular gigging amps now. That head right there is 800 watts.
Whoa. Is it heavy? Is it crazy heavy?
It weighs about 4 pounds.
Oh, it's super light. Wow.
Built-in line out and all that. And then it goes with their Gensler cabinets as well. They're line array cabinets, which is something I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
Most cabs.
So in that small of a rig, you're pushing 800 watts, you said?
Yep, it depends on the ohms. At full tilt, it's 800. I think right now it's pumping more like 550.
Okay, right. But that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, this guy, he sold his company. They were known as Gensbens forever, and they made a lot of nice stuff. They sold out to Fender, and like often happens, the product quality went a little downhill, and he was upset about his name being associated with it. So he came up with new designs using the newest technology and went back into business as Gensler, and this is part of that new product line.
And it's got a whole different kind of like, there's horns or?
Yeah. Traditional bass cabs that most guys have. In the top corner, you'll see a little tweeter shoved in there. And it's usually a metal cone tweeter. There's a crossover in the back. Sometimes there's a knob, and you can choose where the crossover is to send highs. But they're very thin, very piercing, very bright.
This is not what this is. This is what other things are, is what you're saying.
Right. That's what the traditional thing would be. Every cab I've ever had, I had to turn it off because it just produced this tinny metallic high end that I didn't like. So instead of having that with these guys, they made a line array, just like when you go to a concert and see the speakers in an array hanging from the stage in a curve so that they throw sounds all the way to the back of the audience. That's what they've done with the front of it here. It has 4 3-inch speakers, I believe, that are in a curve along the front.
That's awesome.
So it has a lower crossover. It's not just getting the sparkly stuff.
So
it's getting some high mids, too.
When was that made?
This dropped maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago at the most.
New thing. Okay, yeah. LR Bags has done a PA system with a cone, fanned out cone kind of concept.
Yeah.
I guess similar thinking.
They're really popular, Everybody's always had our standard mains that we would use where it's 112 and maybe a horn in the top and it just goes in one direction. But now with all these new line arrays, instead they'll have 8 3-inch speakers that fan out like this, and
that's cool.
The sound goes everywhere in the room instead of just at the person right in front of the speaker. There's so much variety with these magnetic pickups, so you've got almost a precision-based sound, even though it looks single coil there, fat, and then take the tone out of it.
Yeah.
But then in the middle, scooped mids.
It is scooped, yeah.
Then on the bridge, you get the punchiest jazz sound ever, fatter than any jazz. Yeah, it's so versatile and light, and I really love it. It's my favorite right now.
So we got some Keeley pedals we're toying with this rig right here. So you're an owner, personal owner of the limiting one. So what does that do? What's the purpose of that?
So it is, for all needs on your pedal board, it is a compressor, but it's a specific kind. Technically, I guess it's a limiting amplifier. The difference being compression is usually a ratio, and you can set how hard it compresses and how quickly it releases the compression.
Normalizing dynamics, so that like it's not something that spikes real crazy high or low. You're kind of normalizing those dynamics with compression.
Right. It's taking the super highs and lowest lows and putting them in frame
into a little
so
box,
they
yeah.
won't be all over the place. You can control them. With a limiting amplifier, it'll go farther to the point that no sound will come out at all above a
Kind of
level.
stops you, yeah.
Yeah. And Keeley is famous, maybe one of the most famous in modern history.
Because they go way back. Keeley goes way back, right? I mean,
Yeah. In their origins, one of the first couple of things he made was a remake of, I believe it's the Ross or the Dynacomp from MXR from the 70s.
yeah.
He made his own version of that. And they were super popular because compressors at one time were only available in studios, you know. And MXR came out with the Dynacomp, and Ross had their compressor. And it was 2 knobs. It was just how much compression and how quick it released, I think. You have all of them over here if you want to look.
Well, it's cool, man. Actually, I was carrying, we were at local pickup, we were carrying MXR pedals, and that's what led me into, just researching it led me to discover Keeley pedals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now we bought like everything they have.
I know, it's amazing in the
Yeah.
showroom there. It's been fun to play with them. But for me, this pedal, I want to say, lists retail at $199. Compressors, a lot of people are scared of because they can be complicated. You usually have to set input gain, output gain, ratio of compression, attack, how quickly it gets the note, and release, how quickly it releases it. And they're very subtle things. It's not like how much gain you have on a distortion pedal and you can hear it, you know?
Yeah.
With these, it's down to 3 knobs. And one of them is makeup gain, because sometimes
Okay.
you can squeeze your sound so much the overall volume comes down.
Right, right.
So one of the knobs is just to put
Just
more
to push
volume
more
back.
volume, yeah.
But it's just so simple to use that, and the distance is vast. We can play around with it if you want.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do.
So why don't we look at something extreme like that slap that we were doing?
All right.
And the pedal is off right now. Now let's turn it on. And on your screen you can see the red light lighting. That shows that it is compressing. So let's just see if we hear an overall sound difference real quick. So to me already it's more even. It sounds like something you could groove to. It fits in a mix. It doesn't sound like just a bass.
It's when you start mixing.
Of course, yeah.
Because you're having to apply all this like computer compression to normalize things, you know. Yeah.
And this lets you do it live.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
Right? Or in the studio even, it's going to make it easier.
That's smooth, man. I
Yeah.
love it, dude.
One other really cool thing with that compressor is I also have the Keeley Bubbletron here, which does phase and flange and I think chorus or envelope. Recently, I'm finding that a lot of my favorite chorus pedals are actually flangers.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
So what's
such
the
as the
difference?
legendary Police Andy Summers sound. I was like, wow, he's got the greatest chorus sound ever, except it wasn't. It was a flanger. It was a Memory Man.
What's
Or
the difference?
Electric Mistress. Chorus is taking your dry signal along with another signal that's slightly off phase from it.
Gotcha.
Mixed
Okay.
together.
Gotcha.
If you take out your dry signal, it's tremolo.
Okay.
And flange is actually moving, this is just as I understand it, it's moving a filter sweep across your signal.
Across your one signal.
Well, no, it's still a dry and a wet.
Okay. Gotcha.
So all of them have been
And you
two
do a
signals
mix. You usually
together.
control the mix.
Yeah, that would be your blend of
Gotcha.
however much one is, and then
Okay.
range is how far it goes.
Okay.
But I think it lets you get, for bass purposes, more controllable tone. So yeah, I mean, all the basses from Geddy Lee to
Oh yeah.
whoever you can
hear
think
that
of,
and, yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, let's switch up rigs here, man. So you brought a whole
Okay.
different thing.
I did. I wanted to show you some of my favorite finds in this past year after selling a bunch of stuff and working on a studio. I was able to get the live rig I wanted. Then, of course, COVID happened.
Right.
So I have not gigged with it very much. But then also
The
some
vintage
gear
rig.
from some of my most legendary favorite
Yeah.
music ever.
The vintage rig. I hear you, man.
Yeah.
You give me something.